The 5 reasons for your client to understand why now is a good time to buy or sell a home. That's what we're going to cover in this monthly market report. This is for you if you're a real estate agent or a financial advisor interested in market data to help you advise a client, or perhaps you are that potential buyer or seller looking for some direction. I'm Paulo Rodriguez. I've been a mortgage professional since 2005, and here is the market data that you need to make an informed buying or selling decision, or help your client do the same. We'll start with a quote from the National Association of Realtors. Home sellers have historically moved when something in their lives changed: a new baby, a marriage, a divorce, or a new job. The pandemic has impacted everyone, and for many, this became an impetus to sell and make a housing trade. The quote goes on to say, the pandemic likely spurred occupants to shorten their home stay as tenure in the home decreased to 8 years from 10 years, according to the report. This is the largest single year change in home tenure since NAR began collecting such data. Now, if you've been in the business for a while, you've heard that statistically speaking, somebody moves every maybe 5 to 7 years. But after the housing crisis, tenure in homes began to rise, and now we're starting to see that tenure come down, which is very interesting. Here's what this looks like graphically, going all the way back to 1985. You see the average of about 6 years for someone staying in their home. Then we go through the housing crisis, people start staying in their homes longer, 7, 8, 9, even 10 years, and the average being just over 9 years in a home over the last decade or so. And there are a lot of good reasons for that. A lot of people maybe didn't have the equity to make a move. Maybe they were underwater for a while in the home that they owned. Maybe they just said, you know what, we're not going to do anything. We're going to try and pay this house off and stay here because we saw what happened to people in the housing crisis in 2008. And yet now we're coming out of the pandemic and we're seeing that tenure dip down to levels not seen in over 10 years. I'm certainly not saying that 1 year defines a trend, but I think we can say that it represents pent-up seller demand in all those years from people that stayed in their homes statistically longer than usual. We can say the meaning of home has dramatically changed due to the pandemic. We can say there's more equity in homes today than there has ever been before. All of this leading many people into wondering, is now the time to make a move? I believe this winter will answer that question. Let's take a look at this quote from Realtor.com. The pandemic has delayed plans for many Americans, and homeowners looking to move onto the next stage of life are no exception. Recent survey data suggests the majority of prospective sellers are actively preparing to enter the market this winter. So we first talked about a lot of reasons people are thinking about moving, and this study is saying we're seeing a lot of those people preparing to enter the market this winter. In that same study, 65% said they have either just listed or plan to list this winter. 93% say they've already taken the steps towards listing their home, including working with an agent. And 36% have researched the value of their home and others in the neighborhood, as well as started making repairs or doing what they need to do to sell their home. Based on this data, my question to you is, over the next few weeks, what are you going to do with this information? We're all going to be around more people than we've seen in a long time over the next few weeks as we head into the holiday season. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about what we need to have on our phones during that time to show people what's happening in real estate and get them to take action. Taking action is what we all need to be doing right now. And in the spirit of taking action, be sure to reach out to me and ask me about offering your prospective sellers zero-cost renovation financing so that they can maximize the value of their home when they go to market. It also may be useful for you to know that if your prospective seller needs the equity in their current home in order to purchase their new home, I can arrange for the new home to be purchased in cash, allow them to move in, and when their prior home they moved out of sells and they finally have their down payment, they can close on the new home they already moved into. This helps most sellers overcome their own objections about taking action now. Reach out and ask me how. Let's talk about interest rates. Probably one of the biggest updates or topics that's going to be talked about as we go into the new year is what's going on with interest rates. The overall outlook is interest rates are going to rise, and this is a look right now at the 30-year fix, the average being at 3.1%, with many experts calling for that to rise going into the next year. Take a look at this historical perspective on interest rates, looking at 2016 through 2021. And if you were to calculate the average of that data, it would probably come to somewhere between 3.5% to 4%. And I think we're heading back there. I think we're heading back into a much more normal interest rate environment. We've seen some phenomenal rates over the last year or so, and I think we're going to head back into a time where we were prior to the pandemic. Now, You know, in our business, many people often say, well, what's the impact of rising rates on home prices and home sales? And if rates are going to rise, does that mean that we're not going to sell as many homes? Does that mean that the market will be impacted? So let's tackle the first one. Will home prices be impacted by rising mortgage rates? In simple terms, no. And here is what the chief economist at First American had to say about that. Home price appreciation is resistant to rising mortgage rates primarily because most sellers would rather withdraw from the market than sell at lower prices, a phenomenon which we refer to as downside sticky. So if somebody is going to say, okay, if I can't get as much for my home, or if my home is not appreciating as fast, we'll just take it off the market. That's what's being said here. So we don't see depreciation in the market, but maybe price will be slightly impacted by rising interest rates. The other question is, will home sales be impacted by rising interest rates? Well, if you go all the way back to 1999, which is what you see on this graphic, we have interest rates in the line graph and home sales in the bar graph. We can see home sales are not impacted by rising mortgage rates. Each one of the red lines was a rising interest rate environment. And when you compare them to the blue bars, which are home sales, you can see that the only instance in which home sales dropped as interest rates rose was in 2006. And the other 4 occurrences, home sales rose despite interest rates rising. So the question I would have for somebody saying home sales will drop as a result of rising interest rates is based on what information? Because when you go back and look at the historical data, it just doesn't prove out. I mentioned earlier that as we go into the holiday period, most of us will be around more people than usual. And if you're a realtor, you're going to be asked about the real estate market, and you're going to run into objections with regards to buying or selling. And the people we want to be ready for are the ones that are on the fence and saying that they might do something in a year or two. These are the ones that we want to educate about this market. I'm going to show you some slides, most of which you will recognize from last month's report, and you'll want to screenshot these and save them on your phone so that you have supporting data when you get into these conversations this holiday. The first graphic is mortgage rate projections. This is an outlook from the 4 leading providers I follow: Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and the National Association of Realtors. And they're all saying we'll be seeing higher interest rates, so it's going to cost more to own a home. This is what a buyer needs to know in order to take action now, and this is what a seller looking to trade up or trade down needs to know in order to take action now. The second graphic I would have on my phone is the home price forecast for 2022. Some people think there is a real estate crash coming just because the market is hot. These people need to be shown that forecasters are calling for 5.1% on average appreciation in housing next year, and inventory is far too lacking for a crash to be possible. The third graphic pertains to the health of the market. We always want to remind people that last year in 2020, we sold 6.5 million homes in this country. And while that was record breaking, we're forecasted to sell even more this year and even more next year, meaning that the market is incredibly healthy as it pertains to sales volume. The fourth graphic does a great job to show just where we're at in the real estate market based on months of inventory in the extreme seller's market that we're in. If someone is thinking about selling their home, there's literally never been a better time. And if they say that they would sell, but they don't know where they're going to go, put them in contact with me and I will show them how they can make a cash offer on a new property, move into it before buying it, wait for their current home to sell and even renovate it with a zero-cost loan before they sell so that they get a better price for their home, and then use all or part of that equity as the down payment to purchase the new home they already moved into. You have all the tools at your disposal to get people to take action. The fifth graphic is for the buyer that says they don't want to buy at the top of the market. Remember, they're saying it's the top of the market based on feeling, not on data. You can tell them that the best time to buy a house is right now, based on the Home Price Expectation Survey, which covers this year through 2026 for an average price home of $350,000. And what appreciation is at stake? Well, just over $111,000 in real estate appreciation over the next 5 years. Helping that buyer see what's at stake, helping that buyer understand that now is a good time to go out and buy a home is critical for their wealth creation. I think having these slides on our phones will help us answer those questions as we see more and more people, and they ask those questions because they know we're in real estate. They see things in the headlines, they see it in the news, they hear things, they hear about their neighbor that sold, and they wonder, should I be buying, should I be selling? We can be the educator in those scenarios. So that's a wrap for the December monthly market report. I appreciate you listening in. Forward, subscribe, share. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. I'll be back next month, but before you go, if you're looking to purchase or refinance or know someone that is and would like a no-cost consultation with me personally, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to analyze if your debt is structured in the most optimal way or if there's room for improvement. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.